I know, right? It's been forever, but I've missed you, lady. And I know that you've been busy planning a wedding, but it most recently got postponed, right?
Yeah. So, as you know, my fiance and I, we've been planning a wedding for about a year and a half. It was supposed to be this Labor Day weekend.
Wow.
Um, and we recently decided to postpone, and we're going to postpone for a full year. So, next Labor Day.
Well, girl, if you have any questions or need some tips, I'm actually about to call up Lauren from the Knot and get you some answers. Sound good?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Hang tight. Hi, Lauren. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Kay.
Oh my gosh, of course. Thank you for coming on. I'm really excited to talk about wedding season in a pandemic, but I know you have some great tips for us to make sure that folks can still have the feeling of love and, figure things out when figuring stuff out can feel really difficult right now. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Our whole motto at the Knot right now is love is not canceled.
Love it. I love it. So for folks who want to still have that wedding happen, how are some ways that they can navigate to make sure that they're still able to have the wedding of their dreams, or maybe a little change to it?
So I think the dream looks a little different. I know for couples who started planning before COVID hit, they had this vision of what a wedding would look like. And weddings still have all those same hallmarks: the love, the commitment, the celebration, the excitement. They just look a little different now, and really in large part due to doing them safely, right? So the safety of your vendors, of your guests, of your family should be paramount when you're making any wedding decision, especially right now. But what we're seeing is a lot of couples are still keeping their date. They're just celebrating differently. So we've dubbed this the Mini Moni, which is a celebration that's really small scale, a couple of family members. Sometimes it's even virtual with a virtual officiant. A lot of celebrations nowadays are having a virtual component, either because you can't all gather in person, or maybe people can't travel to be there to celebrate with you, but they can still feel part of it. And that is so important for a lot of guests, is to still be connected to the couple on their day. Another option we're seeing is what we're calling shift weddings, where couples are celebrating in shifts. So they're able to get together with a few family and friends at one point in time, and a little later, after the proper sanitation, they can get together with a different group of people to keep these social distances in mind and also keep everybody really safe. We're also seeing couples postpone. It's something that nobody really wants to do, but if they had their heart set on a big wedding or a celebration with everyone, the best thing to do right now is to postpone until it's safe to do so. Every local ordinance is different based on how many people can gather in one place, depending on how COVID is affecting your state. So it's best to check in with the CDC and double check and make sure you're really following all the rules to keep everyone safe. But I think that a lot of people are still celebrating in ways that feel unique to them. They're still personalizing all the details, which has been a huge hallmark of weddings for the last handful of years. And that's what guests really remember, regardless of the size, regardless of the buffet or no buffet. It's those personal details that people remember, and they're really reflective of the couple, and they just feel so them. Guests leave saying, oh my gosh, that was so them. And you can still have that even during a pandemic, which I think is the most important thing to hang on to these days.
Nice. Awesome. Because love is not canceled. Okay. All right. So the next question I had is, what's different about planning the big day now? Obviously we're in a pandemic, right? I think that's probably the biggest answer, but what would you say makes it so different, aside from the obvious?
Sure. Well, it depends on where you are in your planning. If you're just starting to plan, 7, 8 months ago, you might have gone to a venue for a venue tour. Now maybe you're seeing a virtual tour of a venue and locking in the date. A lot of couples are really eager to get married because they recently got engaged, but they are finding that so many people have had to postpone their wedding this year that the dates in 2021 and even 2022 are really getting snatched up. So I think the most important thing is to think about what's important to you if you're at the beginning of your planning, and jump on the things that really stand out. Maybe it's booking a specific photographer or a venue, and think about those things. If you're a little later in your planning, get creative. The number one thing you can do is have open lines of communication with your vendors, specifically a wedding planner if you have one, or the venue where you plan to hold your celebration. They're doing this for a lot of couples. They have a lot of great ideas and can help collaborate with you to come up with new solutions. So maybe you were having a buffet and now you're going to have these beautiful dome covered past hors d'oeuvres to make it safe. Or maybe you were having big, long dining tables and now you're going to have what we call pod tables where families can sit together so they're keeping safe social distancing. Maybe you were going to have one dance floor and now you have a couple satellite dance floors or satellite bars to help disperse the group of people so no one's gathering too closely. Hand sanitizing and hand washing stations are going to be a big trend at weddings as everyone does their part to stay germ-free. We've even seen a lot of couples use creative masks with embroidery or designs, just to make it a little bit more personal. So I think thinking about ways to keep yourself and your guests safe is super important right now if you're already well into planning and making some changes to an original date or original wedding plan. But talk to your vendors. They have tons of creative solutions, and they can even get involved if you're doing a mini moni. They could provide a smaller wedding cake for you to cut into, or a bouquet of flowers for you to dry after the fact, or maybe incorporate into your sequel wedding in 2021. So there's lots of ways to get creative. I think you just have to think a little outside the box, be open to new ideas, be it a Friday wedding or a smaller scale celebration, and really think about how you can keep open lines of communication with your vendors and also your guests so that they're staying in the loop and know kind of what you're thinking, because it's no doubt changing every day.
So if there were 2 questions that you could ask, this woman from The Knot, what would they be?
I think The Knot was a great resource. Kevin and I were like reading their articles and posts. They used to do these like monthly things. Like, if you're a September bride, here's what here's what we're suggesting you do. And it was like in June, like that they would release that article, like, hold on to your date, like, let's wait and see. And they would like update it every month. So we were reading that like religiously. But they just did a really great story about toxic positivity, which was something as a bride, like, I had experienced a lot. And people, I think advice on how to navigate that would be a really good thing. It's an unprecedented time. Nobody knows how to react and what things mean. So they're trying to like be positive, and it's like, it's your wedding, like you should be happy, and it's your engagement and it's butterflies and rainbows. And like, yes, it is all that. And those are those moments. And Kevin and I are like wonderfully in love and like very excited and all of that stuff. But it sucks. Mm-hmm. Like, acknowledge that it sucks. Like, don't tell me, as much as you tell me, oh, well, at the end of the day, you're going to be married, it doesn't make it suck less. Mm-hmm. Let me, allow me to be in that kind of situation.
I think a lot of people feel guilty because maybe they have their health, they still have their job, and other people are experiencing many hardships in their life. But the truth is this is a big moment in your life, and you're allowed to be disappointed with this outcome. It was completely out of your control, and now you're having to kind of react. We actually dubbed this toxic positivity. We had an article on theknot.com just a couple of days ago with this very topic that, a lot of people are very well-meaning and saying everything's going to work out, it's going to be okay, but it does come across as a bit of a sting if you're on the receiving end and you've already had to change all of these plans and cancel things that you've been planning for such a long time. So I would say to your friend, you are absolutely right to feel that way. You should feel that way. And you can tell people, I know this is a really well-meaning sentiment and I appreciate it, but right now I'm just going to sulk a little longer. I'm going to take this moment to mourn the wedding I was originally planning and get on board with the new celebration, because it will happen, but you kind of have to have that grieving process, grieving this thing that you've lost.
And then another thing that I think would be interesting would be ways to make your mini event, if you choose to have one, feel unique. So one of the reasons why Kevin and I had decided to wait was because since we don't live in New Jersey, mm-hmm. and a lot of hotels, like, it's just like it's a weird feeling. It's not like, it's not a luxurious special feeling as what it would be at any other time. Mm-hmm. And then also it was a lot of, if we do get married, then we're married. Will we be just as excited next year when we're walking down the aisle? If my dads were to walk me down the aisle in our mini ceremony, will it be just as special as that moment next year? We didn't want to take anything away from our big ceremony, but we didn't know how to have the small ceremony and still make it feel special without taking away.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple ways. So one is absolutely those personalized details. So find a way to incorporate whatever is meaningful to you guys. We've seen so many iterations of this. We've seen incredible, like Elaine's wedding. I don't know if you remember her stoop. It was decked out in the most gorgeous flowers. I can't imagine a more beautiful altar of sorts than her front door. We've seen couples have their band come and actually play outside in front of their home for their first dance song. There's lots of different ways you can do it, but find what's most important to you or what you were most looking forward to about your wedding and find a way to make that happen on a smaller scale. I mentioned before you could still have your wedding cake there or flowers or a bouquet, a special bottle of champagne that maybe you'll plan to drink at the mini Moni and again at your sequel wedding. We saw one couple who had to continually change plans, and every time they moved a date or made some sort of concession, they opened up a bottle of this specific champagne, and now it's kind of been a hallmark of their wedding journey during this pandemic. So I think there's lots of ways to do it. It's about figuring out what is most meaningful to you and finding how you can incorporate that in your day. It could be even asking people to give toasts or advice during a Zoom ceremony, or asking your guests to help come up with the playlist for the reception. A lot of people are using these virtual ceremonies as fun ways to connect with people. It's kind of like a Zoom happy hour, but better, with disco balls and fun playlists. We've even seen DJs be hired to be the master of ceremonies for this like epic virtual dance party to celebrate a couple. So there's lots of different ways to do it. I would say what speaks to you, figure out what that is, and then bring it to life, even on a smaller scale. It's also a good way to preview it if you're going to have some of the same guests at your sequel wedding, is to preview some of those things or have a few little kind of Easter eggs, right, in your mini Moni that then show up later at your sequel wedding. It's like a little fun preview of what's to come in 2021 or beyond.
Oh, that's super cute. I need to get on more wedding lists for next year. I'm like, friends, hi, please get married so I can attend all these mini Monis.
I know, they're going to be epic, especially next year when we can all like celebrate the way we're used to celebrating.